Hello, everybody. Welcome to the webinar entitled Art, Technology and Humanism. First, before we start, I would just like to mention that we are having recording this session, as well as we are also going on Facebook Live and YouTube channel. This webinar is a part of KIBLIX webinar series, and it's organized by KIBLA. I would just, before we start, I would just like to mention that the webinar series today is hosting Tereza Teklić, a curator from curatorial collective KONTEJNER, and from Zagreb. And the idea of the webinar is not only to get acquainted with KONTEJNER's practice, but also to read a text, Art, Technology and Humanism by Boris Groys, and from certain points that are... Yeah? Okay.
It is fine.
From certain points of in the text, we will discuss KONTEJNER's practice. So please don't hesitate to participate, to join in a conversation. I hope you have read the text, but if you didn't, it is no problem. And you can just join the conversation within the perspective, from the perspectives you have. So, but before we start, before Tereza takes the floor, I would just like to invite everybody to introduce themselves very briefly. So the introduction is just your name, pronouns, and to say which kind of terms is closer to you, techno-optimism or techno-pessimism. So I can start. My name is Irena Borić, and my pronouns are she and her, and I'm closer to techno-pessimism.
Hi, my name is Tereza Teklić. My pronouns are she, her, and I would say in my work I'm a techno enthusiast, but in my private life I'm a bit more reserved.
Hi, my name is Dina Karadzic. My pronouns are she, her, and I believe I'm a techno-optimist.
Wait, Jure, hello Jure, you just joined us for introductions. So could you please introduce yourself and mention, are you more closer to techno-pessimist or to techno-optimist?
Hi, I am Jure. My pronouns are he, him, his, him. And I would say I am a techno-optimist.
Okay, thank you. So now I would actually like to give, before I give the floor to Tereza, I would just like to briefly introduce her. So she's a curator and art manager, and she's working in curatorial collective KONTEJNER, a bureau for contemporary art praxis since 2008. And within she has also realized different kind of curatorial projects, but here we are gonna specifically focus on practice of Container. Container is a quite specific collective that is based in Zagreb and founded in 2002. It has actually quite a large collective behind its name, and it deals with many different aspects from curatorial work, diverse kind of festivals, as well as education and social theory. Also different kind of public events are in its scope of work. And what is the most interesting is, I think that it is the focus of the collective is actually on contemporary art practices that are entangled within the field of science, technology, and art, but it always seeks to look for some hidden and unfamiliar and maybe experimental or even taboo kind of subjects within it. So please, Tereza, you have the floor.
Thank you, Irena, and thank you for the nice introduction. And also for the invitation to you and KIBLIX to take part in this webinar. I will now share my screen. Okay, just a second. Maybe I can. Okay, I can start with this because the first one was just an introduction page. Okay, so hello again, everybody. My name is Tereza Teklić. As Irena already told you, I'm a member of the curatorial collective Container, Bureau of Contemporary Art Praxis. It is an NGO that is based in Zagreb, and it was founded in 2002. So the collective is engaged in curatorial work, in organization of art festivals and other public events, but we are also very much focused on art production, on education, and social theory, as Irena already mentioned. So our main field of interest is progressive art, which investigates the role and meaning of science, technology, and body in our society. We are focusing on relevant topics and phenomena, on intriguing and provocative subjects, but we also deal with those topics that can and are perceived as taboos by society. And since the beginning, it was very important for us to specifically work in a cross-sectoral framework. You will see this later on throughout the presentation, why it is important for us. So it means we're connected with numerous institutions, organizations, and individuals, from local hospitals and medical institutions, museums, universities, and scientific laboratories. And this cross-sectoral collaboration in general is important for us because our curatorial practice is a much wider field of interest for us. So it is not just about thematic research or content creation, but we are also very much focused on capacity building, for example, for artists, giving them the opportunity to learn and work in a way that they maybe didn't get a chance to do in their formal educational setting, to engage with community and tackle different themes on different levels, and also to develop a formal and informal education project, and in the end also to contribute in a way to social transformation. Our main program activities include 3 triennial festivals. The thematic festival called Touch Me, that is dedicated to the relations between technology, science, and art. Device Art Festival, that is dealing with machines and devices as artistic medium. And Extravagant Bodies, directed towards the question of the politics of normality in relations to the human body and mind. So I will go briefly through all this festival just to introduce you what they're about. So Device Art Festival is dealing with, as I said, technological devices, machines and robots in art. It was initiated in 2004. The concept of this festival was based on how we are rethinking our relations with technology and the relations between technology and art. And the festival has been initiated out of need to, in a way, explore, map, and stimulate the local artistic scene, to contextualize it and to direct it more towards art and technology practices, and interconnect it also with a tendency on an international level. So for the first edition in 2004, we collaborated, we presented the regional scene and collaborated with Kapelica Gallery from Slovenia, and afterwards we started collaborating with other international organizations and institutions, presenting their scene in Zagreb, and afterwards, after each edition, also presenting our artists abroad. So until today, we also collaborated with the Californian device art scene, with Japan, with the Czech Republic, with Canada. We had then the last edition of the festival was an international one, where we showcased the current international tendencies regarding device art, and the festival was also presented as part of Ars Electronica Festival in 2014. Yes, I will now show you a trailer of the last edition of the festival, so you get an idea about the artworks that are presented. The presented artworks were from the very start at the border of device hacking and gadget culture, and from they range from conceptual provocations and innovative interfaces to utilitarian products, toys, and prototypes. And what we've learned since the first edition of the festival in 2004, and based on the artworks that since have been produced and exhibited, is that on the one hand, DIY culture in Croatia has important, I would say, social and cultural role, because DIY culture was important in former Yugoslavia. So people, for example, build their houses by themselves. They built all the installations by themselves: electricity, plumbing, sewage. They could repair everything from bottom up, from roof to kitchen appliances. And this can still be sensed in the culture today. But also it can also be seen in the way that artists approach their works. And on the other hand, in the 70s and 80s, conceptual art became a dominant tendency in art, which also left a strong mark on technologically based art till today. So our contemporary local scene tends to be driven by a concept, and then they seek technology to see how to express this concept. Okay, the other festival is called Touch Me. It deals with interconnections between art and science through themes that engage and inspire contemporary artists, but not just them, also scientists that work in the field of physics, biology, chemistry, and mathematics. The festival approaches the relations between art and science from a thematic point of view, which means that each festival edition has a specific topic that is getting explored. The festival so far has been dedicated to intelligence and information, to pleasure and hedonism, to energy use and abuse, to the notion of time, to invisible natural phenomena, and new forms. The latest edition was dedicated to new forms of coexistence between living beings, nature, and technology. And the idea behind the festival is based upon a critical approach on the overwhelmingly rapid scientific development, but it's not a project that is about scientific optimism or pessimism. It's just about exploration and presentation about all the new possibilities, about all the visions of future, the artistic practices that are shown within these festivals have a strongly experimental quality, and artists working in this field use science and new technologies in order to question the contemporary and future world in the most radical and provocative way. And maybe just to explain a bit the title of the festival, the Touch Me Festival, and emphasizes actually the interactivity and tactile features of most of these interdisciplinary artworks that deal with science and technology. And it was a bit strange in a year of epidemic. So our last edition of the Touch Me Festival was last year, when everybody's talking about forbidden touches, so it was a bit, yeah, odd to have a festival with that title. Extravagant Bodies was initiated in 2007, and since its very beginning it dealt with the politics of normality, of how society defines what is considered normal, as well as what is not considered normal in terms of body, behavior, or sexuality, and the existence of the other and the different, especially in the context of the body, often generates negative identification or social exclusion. So this body that is different and this extravagant in a way is at the center of the creative works of artists that are presented at the festival. And it's often that these artists are part of a minority or a marginalized community. For this festival, performance is the crucial artistic form because contemporary performance is very critical and is political and is often about the body, and the performance engage often with socially relevant themes. Their approach is very direct, participatory and inclusive, and they go into contact with the audience, even deeper contact, and with specific communities. And the goal of the festival is not to just speak about one topic that we picked, but to speak from the position of what it's considered an abnormal body or identity, and to get to foster a conversation, a deeper conversation between different actors. So the festival so far has been dedicated to physical disabilities, to mental and intellectual health, social and individual implications of old age, crime, and the latest addition to the complexity of love. So besides presentation of artworks, production of artworks is very much important to us. So investing in art, in artists, developing the local artistic scene. So being present or working together with the artists from the very beginning, from the initial idea through the whole process, production process, and then in the end, to the presentation of the work. So DIY Art Lab is our own production platform that was established in 2006. And since then, it is actually one of the very few local platforms that is continuously and successfully dedicated to production of artworks by creation artists that are working in this field of innovative intermedia and investigative art practices. So through this platform, we are trying to interconnect creation artists with experts from different fields from outside of the field of arts and culture, like scientists, like the technology sector, medicine, and so on. And we are trying to, through this platform, we're focusing on encouraging local artists to be more ambitious in the way they approach their ideas, in the way they approach research and the realization of the work. We are encouraging them to experiment more with technology and science, which in the end also contributes to the development of the local scene and actually increases the visibility of it on an international level. Each year we try to have an open call to invite Croatian artists to apply. Actually, yesterday we had published one which was also production and presentation for the next Device Art Festival, which will be held in November this year. And until today, we have produced over 60 artworks by 40 different Croatian artists and collectives. This also inspired us to go a bit further in this cross-sectoral collaboration. We developed a few years ago a project for students called Short Circuit, which is a collaboration with students of Art Academy, Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences, and Faculty of Science from Zagreb, where we gathered this group of interested students. They have lectures, workshops, thematic discussions, and fieldwork with mentors and other artists. And in the end, they work on developing a collective artwork. So we saw that, or we're trying to, through these programs, to have something that's maybe missing in their, as I said before, in the formal educational setting. Another project that is production-based, but on an international level, it's EMAP, European Media Art Platform, which we are very happy to be part of since 2017. It's a network of 11 European cultural institutions and organizations that is primarily focused on offering artists residency and the production of new media artworks. It was established in 1995, so since then it has become one of the biggest international residency platforms, and it includes institutions like Ars Electronica, Onassis Stegi from Athens, FACT from Liverpool, or Impact from the Netherlands. So the grants that we offer each year include production and artist fee for the artists, an opportunity to present the work within the network, and also to work with cultural workers that are within the network. So you can see some images from our last residency production, which was held in 2020 with two Spanish artists called Maria Castellanos and Alberto Valverde. I will turn on a video now from the work while I explain it. So the work is called Beyond Human Perception, and what I did during the residency, which was happening in midst of lockdown in the first half of last year, which was a remote residency, unfortunately for us and for them. But what I wanted to explore during this residency is how to visualize and compare reactions of both humans and plants to live music. So we set up a live concert session where people and plants were exposed to live music. So they recorded human brain activity, the EEG waves, and at the same time they recorded plant reactions, and this was done with a sensor that the artist developed during their residency. And the sensor was able to detect these immediate changes in plants. So they were measuring this electrical oscillation that occurred in plants during this concert, and they also developed an algorithm that could show side by side the recordings of humans and plants and what their reactions and changes are to the live music. Okay, I will go on because I don't know how long we have. For EMAP, the principal mission is, of course, offering artist residencies and ensuring quality conditions for the production of new artworks, but the distribution and presentation of these works in different countries, contexts, and circumstances is also very important, why every partner organizes a selected group exhibition of works that were produced within the platform. And so we did last year with an exhibition in Dubrovnik and an exhibition in Zagreb, where we showcased 7 artworks. It was a selection of works based on natural sciences and cybernetics, and all of the selected works provided an overview of relevant topics of contemporary life on Earth. Artists addressed issues such as pollution, interspecies communication, climate change, the post-human body, and offered their visions of the future. The video is a bit long, but I just wanted to give you an insight how it all looked. And maybe to finish the presentation with another work that we did last year. It was for the European Capital of Culture, Rijeka 2020. So the NGO Drugo More invited us to propose an exhibition program for the European Capital of Culture for their program flagship called Dopolavoro, that dealt with work and new technologies. So we proposed a program of 4 large-scale installations that were meant for public, most of them meant for public space. But due to the epidemic, everything was postponed, and then most of them got cancelled in the end. But the one installations that we got the chance to present and organized by was this one by Bill Warren, called Hysterical Machines, which is one of the paradigmatic artworks from the turn of the century as a must-see piece of contemporary robotic art. It's an interactive installation that consists from 6 robotic structures that hang from the ceiling and that react to the human presence in their immediate environment. The Hysterical Machines has a spherical body and 8 arms made of aluminum tubing. It has a sensoring system, a motor system, and a control system. And the aim of the project was to induce empathy of the viewer towards characters which are nothing more actually than metal structures. I can leave now the video to go to the end, but maybe this is a good transition to the text by Boris Groys about art, technology, and humanism. So thank you.
Thank you, Tereza. It was really lovely to hear all of this. And I have been following containers practice for quite a long time. So, but for me, it's always exciting. So, and I really appreciate that as a collective, at least in my experience, it was always a place to learn and to follow something where art practice where you cannot see them anywhere else, like nobody else is doing this, nor from the dominant institutions in Croatia or other organizations. Well, at least not 10 or 15 years ago. So this was for me always something very different and something that always made me think in many different ways. So I think this is why it's interesting that hopefully just by seeing containers practice, it makes you think, okay, what is this about? What is this? And so on. But now we can push it a bit further with this text by Boris Groys, that is actually published in eFlux journal, and he's quite often contributing for eFlux journal. He's actually quite known media theoretic, art critic, art historian, and his quite known specialty is actually Russian avant-garde. But even if you don't know him, or if you haven't read the text, maybe it will be interesting to tackle some of the aspects that he touched upon. Of course, this is just basically like a reading circle, so we will not really pretend that we know everything what he intended to say, because there is a lot of theory behind his words. But what he is actually talking about is, in a way, not so smoothly in line with containers practice. So it doesn't address, first of all, it's not art, technology, and science, but rather it is art, technology, and humanism. So for him, he already goes into that, where should a human being be within this relationship of or perception of human being within this relation of art and technology. And what he is actually doing at the very beginning is that he goes back to a philosopher, to Heidegger, and to his understanding of technology that is actually somehow in opposition towards art. So to quote, so what he is saying, so what he is interested in is like, what is the goal of technology? So this is like the beginning of the whole text somehow. And then he opens up the text with Heidegger rightly says that the primary goal of technology is to secure the storage and availability of resources and commodities. So basically it comes to, living better or surviving better, or how do you want to put it? And then he shows that historically the development of technology has been directed towards the decreasing of man's dependence on the accidents to which the natural supply of resources is inevitably prone. So he says, according to Heidegger, the goal of technology is precisely to immunize man against change, to liberate man from his dependency on physics, on fate, on accident. So basically, this is one idea of technology with which Groys is starting the text. But now I would actually like to go back to you, Tereza, and ask you, how do you perceive technology within like containers practice? Because it is quite relevant aspect. And the way you approach it, of course, we could have seen it, but maybe to articulate a bit more on this.
Yes, I mean, throughout the presentation, you can see how much technology is intertwined in our practice and our program and our festivals that we do. So we have two festivals that are technology based, one primarily like the Device Art Festival, the other Touch Me Festival is also with science. But yes, it is very important for Container and the practices that we promote in the way that we work with artists. And also, yes, the text from Groys, or what you said in the beginning about the goal of technologies to secure storage and availability of resources and commodities, yes, in a way, but in the other way, technology is also advancement of technology is something that eases everything around us, our everyday life. It aids us in any way that we want it to. So yes, it is important.
If somebody else has a comment or a question.
Hi.
Hey.
Christina. I always have a comment. I always have a question. I also wanted to thank Irena and Tereza and Kibla for this event. This is a really gentle and really efficient way to make me to read something that is smart and to have a discussion. So yeah, I'm just gonna suggest a short comment, and this is something that was maybe the most I was most impressed by this, because I'm constantly thinking about how does technology and art relate, because these start as different disciplines and they kind of merge in contemporary art. And what the text suggested for me is that the more classical forms of art, they want to conserve the object and they want time to be transient, to be ephemeral, while as in digital or technologically enabled art, somehow the object is the one that is ephemeral and time is kind of saved and conserved. So I think this is something that is relevant for me. I will think about this because it's always a tension between institutional and non-institutional culture, from especially from the perspective of what Container is doing there. That's non-institutional programming and it's super relevant for Croatia and beyond. So I think it's kind of important that these practices, even linguistically and in practice, we build bridges between different subjects. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna stop there. I could just keep on talking. This is super interesting.
Thank you, Dina. Yes, I would agree with like this comment. A comment is really also something that brought our attention as well here, because it's really again that mention how do you capture time, and thus I think it's, and I think what he's saying. But I think also when he's talking about technology, that in his mind was mostly internet as a technology. I think he was not really going in like I don't think he was seeing it in a broader way. I don't know, what are your thoughts?
I can say that he didn't, because he said, I mean, if you compare it to what I was presenting, what Container is doing, and there are a few points in the text that I marked as very opposite to what we do. First, the one that the consumption of artworks is just the contemplation of them. When you did see that the artworks that we present and that we produce are very much hands-on, very interactive, very inviting for people, participatory. He also, I don't know where, if I'm going to find it now, sorry. And that art is conservative. He also mentions at one point. I don't know where I underlined it. Do you know where it is?
No, but I can also look. I'm also like this, like conservative in a way to print paper.
Doesn't want change.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is why I'm thinking that he's kind of, when he's talking, he kind of has this, like he has this conservative art as one opposition, and then it has technology art, which is basically digital art, as another opposition. So in a way, he kind of contraimposes these two. Dina also has a comment that there was a reference to technology to being turbo capitalist, and then she was nearly offended. And there is also a passage about our relation to objects of art utile as barbaric. So, but anyway, it seemed that he's kind of don't getting this scope of technology in a way that, for example, Container is dealing with it, because it's actually integral part of the whole practice. And what is interesting is also that Container has actually reference to 60s and programmatic art, basically. So this was there is that kind of line and connection, what was like program of new tendencies and so on. So
yes, you have the feeling that this text was written a lot of years ago and not just a few years ago. And I mean, there's a huge scene in art history when artists already in 60s and even in the 50s started working with technology and body and senses, when you have the first electronical dress by a Japanese artist in late 50s, and some utopian headgear that was produced in the 60s. So this was missing from the text. What is with this huge piece of art history of arts and technology that he didn't even mention or reference?
I wonder if somebody else has a comment or a question.
And I can just say further that he didn't even, not just in art history, but even new tendencies, when you see what everything that can be done with technology in art, with prosthetics, with nanotechnology, with this different intersectional collaborations that I was also talking about, which is a huge part of the artistic scene. What else can be done? How artists are experimenting with their own body, and how their bodies are becoming sort of architectural side, where they don't leave any body part unturned or untouched, like from fingers, ear, brain, of course. I mean, Stellark is there the example number one, where with his work Ear on Arm, where he cultivated an ear from cells, and that was a process of, I don't know, 10 years with all research and growing and funding and finding a surgeon who was willing to actually sew this on. And then so there are huge possibilities that art intertwining with technology and science are producing.
If I may add one more thing into
Please.
the equation, that's I often have conversations about technology, but sometimes it's about the technique, sometimes it's about hardware, sometimes it's about the software, sometimes it's about the context, the national context or funding. Like, there are so many different aspects to technology that can intertwine with art, starting with, for example, social media algorithms, which can kind of destroy you or make you in a way if you are trying to communicate via them. There's also censorship. There's also different access. There's the ecological aspect of the technology. So if we say technology, I couldn't really kind of pinpoint about which aspect of the technological state that we are in is the author actually referring to, which was also mentioned a few minutes ago in your talk. So when I just wanted to add furthermore that when I mentioned I'm a techno-optimist in the beginning, in the introduction, like the way that I try to look at the technology being implemented into art is not really about the object itself. It's about the technological processes and options bringing us to a state where we have an opportunity to change, to systemically change ways that we have been creating and working and sharing in. So this is something that I'm really wishfully and hopefully optimistic about. But before we get to that, it's really important for the arts sector to be kind of in the position of creating actual contemporary new media art and to have a community, which is really where the non-institutional part is really important to go. Yeah, so if we would say technology, like for me, technology is a way that enables you to do something that you wouldn't be otherwise able to do, and it also brings you a chance to share it in ways that you wouldn't be able to share it with other people, and to create in ways that you weren't priorly able to create in some classical mediums. So yeah, copyleft licensing and collaborations are really important for this.
Thank you, Dina. If somebody else has a question or comment. I have if nobody wants to say anything, because we don't have a lot of time, I have to say. Of course, the text, I don't know if you have read it or not, but if you have, you know, it is actually a challenging one. So in a sense, of course, we won't be able to grasp it at all in its totality. But maybe I would just like to mention this part, which was interesting to me. So basically, accordingly, so in other words, the French Revolution introduced a new type of thing, the functionalized tools. So I think that's kind of interesting in a sense. What does technology do when it comes together with art? Does it, you know, how it actually changed its function, and does it become something else? Because it is kind of conceptualized, and basically it becomes a tool for something else, not for maybe solving a problem, but rather to trigger you to think something differently, maybe. But he's saying, so accordingly, for human beings, becoming a thing no longer meant becoming a tool. On the contrary, becoming a thing could now mean becoming an artwork. So, and for human beings, becoming an artwork means precisely this: coming out of slavery, being immunized against violence. So basically, you are like preserved and then kind of, saved from. I mean, I found this interesting and somehow poetic idea that to become an artwork means kind of this saving your, like becoming something else than human, basically. And then also being away, being kind of protected from violence, because for him, and that's another, again, that conservative part, that art is something to contemplate upon rather than be interactive with. Because I think even this interactivity, and even if it's like destroyed or ephemeral or like invisible at the end, I think it's again, I mean, it doesn't necessarily excludes contemplation, but again, you engage in a different way. Let's say it like that. So I don't know if you have some.
No, it doesn't exclude, but because when you look at a lot of these artworks and themes that they explore, they can be interactive, but they can also be contemplative. Like we had last year in this exhibition of EMAP works, as I said, that were addressing important contemporary issues in society, for example, pollution. Robertina Šebjanić and Gino Šutić in their work Aqua Forensic, what they did, they actually explored chemical pollutants in underwater ecosystems. So chemical pollutants meaning illegal and legal drugs that we as humans consume every day, and that get discharged from our body and through the sewage system end up in the waters of the world, and what effect they have on underwater living system from micro to microorganisms. And they did an in vitro experimentation where they exposed the microorganism to a solution that was 20,000 times weaker than the actual one in the waters. So no, this the one doesn't exclude the other. So you can still have an interactive artwork, an art piece, and still contemplate, think about, because there are big issues that and topics that the artists are exploring and creating. There was another work by a UK artist, Kat Austin, who is investigating microplastics, or the presence of microplastics in the atmosphere and their its influence on forests. It is a big topic because last year they even said that microplastic or traces of microplastics can now be found also in human organs. So the artists have a nice way, direct way, and to get these big themes to a larger audience. They have a direct way, a more approachable way than scientists can have. So yes.
Yeah, it is really an opening up of the field. Either one, either art field is open up with the science and technology, either technology or science is opened with within art. I wonder if somebody else has a comment or a question. Dina, please join in and say it out loud.
Hi, sorry. Just wanted to mention also the end part. I kind of adore the sci-fi-esque dystopian part where the text suggests humans are kind of secondary to the primary process of technology. Like the algorithm we built and choose to use is kind of a primordial soup for future civilizations. And I really believe our responsibility in building it ethically is enormous, and art is a fantastic catalyst to rethink these relations and the resources and the methods we input in art objects, which can then communicate more broadly. Yeah, so this is what I wanted to mention.
Thank you. No, I also wanted to address the ending. But maybe just this sentence. So yeah, like that he goes into Lyotard. As he said, he opened the way for thinking about the post-human or the transhuman in a way that shifts the focus from software, from attitudes, opinions, ideologies to hardware, organism, machine, their combinations, cosmic processes, and events. Jure, do you please want to share with us?
Sure. I think maybe it was a Freudian slip, sorry. But now I was just thinking about, because there is let's say a proliferation, is that a word? There are art and technology festivals, and maybe I suppose they cater to a certain audience, and they are all kind of interconnected and they all travel around. And it made me think about not maybe technology optimism or technology versus technology pessimism, but technology fetishism, not in a sense that maybe it's not kind of like, oh, what is the good in the art or the good in the technology or the bad in the technology, but maybe that people are somehow drawn to it, regardless of it being good or bad or whatever. It, yeah.
Thank you.
Comment, just a comment.
Yeah, but it is an interesting thought anyways. Okay. So if somebody else wants to say something. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Dina says she's mostly drawn to try to understand it. I agree. I mean, but I have, for example, why I said also techno-pessimist is that I'm kind of having this more pessimist attitude, but still I'm, as you said, techno-fetishist in a sense. I'm drawn to it in a way of wanting to think it critically, basically. Not thinking it also in a way that everything is, doom, but also like trying to find the ways that it can be constructive and that it can be used in a way that it actually brings about a better world. So I think also in this very end of post-humanism and transhumanism, and also the efforts of, I don't know, world's elite to travel to some other planets and, or I don't know, do what with their bodies to how to call it, to preserve themselves. So I think that tendency of trying to preserve themselves as an artwork, as if we would go into these Groys times, if you become an artwork that kind of is able to live forever, in which I think he was quite here referring to the staying on internet as a place of representation. But I think today's tendencies with all these moments of how to, you make yourself younger or to live forever or whatever, or even on another planet just to live, it's really like that kind of I don't know, understanding. So this is just a comment. I don't know if somebody else wants to say something, or Tereza, if you want to share something, because we are now almost done. So
Nothing else.
okay. Okay, so then yeah, we have to go back to our avatars, as Dina said. So thank you very much all for coming. Martina, Mativos, thank you for joining us in Zoom, even though you didn't want to talk much, but still very nice to see you, even though we didn't see you, but happy that you're here. And thank you very much, Tereza, for being here and presenting the practice, and of course, reading the text and engaging with it. I think, yes.
It was a challenge. But,
yeah, it was a challenge. That was the point. So
yeah, and I hope that after all this lockdowns and everything, that we will be able to meet and to enjoy art in a physical way, in person, and not just only online. So
yeah, I agree. I mean, this would completely differently function if we would not meet. Touch Everything Festival, yes. So, okay, thank you everybody very much, and maybe see each other next Tuesday. Bye.